Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be talking about Chapter 16 of Peopleware, which is called Hiring a Juggler. This is another chapter that might be slightly out of date in the modern era, as the premise it attacks isn't widely applicable in the interview process these days. But we'll talk about it anyways, though perhaps spending less time on it than typical. In particular, they talk about the phenomenon of not asking to see someone do work in the interview process, and making an analogy of this to hiring a juggler without seeing him juggle. In other words, when interviewing, you should make an effort to engage with the candidate to see his skills in some way. Asking technical questions and paired programming are in the zeitgeist of programmer interviewing these days, and so basically that's why I say that this chapter is thankfully not terribly applicable anymore. That said, the authors suggest 3 ways in which one can engage with a candidate's skill set: seeing a portfolio project, giving an aptitude test, and holding an audition, each of which we'll go into here. Of these 3 ways, the portfolio seems to be held up as one of the most effective in terms of being able to see what a candidate is capable of. It should come as no surprise, since the portfolio is something that the candidate creates herself and thus will play to her strengths, and will give you as an interviewer a sense of what she is capable of, thus making the decision whether or not to extend an offer easier. The second way, by giving an aptitude test, is put forward as a bad way of evaluating candidates. The authors say that such tests are ineffective because they measure the wrong things. In particular, they measure left brain skills, which may be relevant early in one's career, but as a job progresses, roles tend to become increasingly right-brained oriented. This would entail things like stakeholder meetings and triaging moving requirements and so on. These are just not things that are covered by an aptitude test. I'll use myself as an example. One time I was given such an aptitude test, and it was one of the most nonsensical things I've ever seen. There were questions about inverting a polygon and mentally rotating some arbitrary shape. It was quite an exercise. My ability to do spatial reasoning isn't predictive of my ability as a programmer, and it certainly isn't predictive of whether or not I'm a pleasant person to work with. So I went through that test just as a thought exercise, but then withdrew from consideration for that position. My intuition is that an organization is out of touch with the reality of engineering management, as that one would not be the one where I or any coder could realistically thrive, because those values are not what are highlighted in the day-to-day of an engineering position. So how is it even possible to succeed if you're being measured on something that isn't part of your role? That's kind of what I mean. Now, the last way of engaging a candidate is by holding an audition. This is a solid option because it emphasizes the person's communication capacity and ability to articulate a technical concept to others. This is a highly valuable skill, as, generally speaking, there will be some amount of communication from engineers to non-technical people outside of their immediate team. The authors suggest that a candidate prepares a short talk, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, to talk about some work that they've done in the past, and ideally it would be something that is related to the company's work. Afterwards, the team should get together to discuss how it went, and this would have a couple things going for it. Namely, that everyone would have a chance to give input on the hiring decision. And furthermore, this public speaking opportunity, or perhaps torture test depending on whose perspective we're looking at, also serves as an opportunity for the team to hang out with the candidate in a potentially, hopefully, more casual format than a one-on-one or two-on-one questioning session. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one.